put those plans in tonight.
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're taking a look at 10 PS2 classics we still need on PS5. While a solid number of PlayStation 2 games have been remade or remastered for modern hardware, there are still a number of titles that are either stranded entirely or are unplayable through what few means we have to play them. Which PlayStation 2 game would you like to see brought forward to PlayStation 5? Did it make the list? Let us know down in the comments. Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Sly Cooper Series.
A sort of underworld celebrity, equally at home in high-class art circles and shady back-alley crimes.
Sly and the gang have been missing for over a decade now, and with so much time passed, we feel Sony needs to retrieve the Thievius Raccoonus and find a way to reintroduce Sly to the world. Sure, you can play all 4 Sly Cooper games on PlayStation 5, but that's only the PS3 iterations, all of which are only playable through streaming. That's just... no, we're not doing that. Whether we get a remaster, port, or a collection of remakes or whatever, Sony needs to find some method of either preserving these excellent games or letting us at least download the PS3 versions, as lackluster as they were.
Let's rock!
God of War. The weirdest thing about God of War is that even through Sony's abysmal streaming service, there is no way to play the original God of War on PlayStation 5. You can play Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, Ascension, even God of War 2 HD. You can play all of those through streaming if you hate yourself that much. But God of War 05, you are SOL, friend. Look, God of War has gotten bigger than it ever was. Bigger even than when it returned in 2018. So, why not let your massive fan base, Sony, your players who bought PS5s for God of War, replay the first game or experience it for the first time? The IP is nearly 20 years old, and most folks would be touched to see how far Kratos has come since then. Xenosaga series.
60 seconds to release. Beginning countdown. 57, 56, 55, 54, 53, 52, 51.
In recent years, Bandai Namco has shown interest in remaking and reviving dead games. Who would have thought we'd see Pac-Man World or even Katamari come back? But to rejuvenate some of their older JRPGs, why not Xenosaga? None of the 3 Xenosaga games were ever brought forward to modern hardware, and what's funny is that Bandai Namco may not need to do much work on a Xenosaga port or remaster. To this day, these games still look incredible. Perhaps all that would need to be done is some upscaling, and quite frankly, throwing all of the Xenosaga games up on PS5, even without touching anything, would awaken all of those PS2 nerds from the old days. Easy money. Rule of Rose. Rule of Rose is one of those few games that boasts a reputation for being unreasonably rare. Was its subject matter the cause for its scarcity? Who can say? However, there has been a noticeable increase in demand for this game across various corners of the video game market. What's even more interesting is that this hidden gem of horror gaming has a good chance of being brought forward to PS5, and we'd love to amplify the notion if we can. Rule of Rose was developed by a long-defunct studio known as Punchline, which was founded by Yoshiro Kimura. Kimura would go on later to work for Marvelous Inc., and today he heads his own studio called Onion Games. Those who keep up with gaming news will remember that Onion Games put out a statement in 2021 expressing interest in bringing back Rule of Rose. If Kimura and his team can get a hold of the current owners of the game, or the license, or whatever they need, maybe we'll all finally be able to see why people pay exorbitant prices for such a rare game. Twisted Metal Head-On Extra Twisted Edition. We already have Twisted Metal Black playable through PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility, and Sony has finally begun throwing the original PS1 games on PS5 and PS4. If the trend continues, it won't be long before we see TM3, 4, and Small Brawl on PS5 as well. But what about Head-On? Sure, Sony can throw the PSP original on premium and call it a day. Thing is that the PS2 version has more to it. Not only does it look and play better, it also basically has a second game attached to it in the form of Twisted Metal Lost. This half of the game gave players a look at all sorts of cut content from past projects such as levels from Twisted Metal Harbor City, a segment that allowed players to run around as Sweet Tooth on foot, and a collection of deleted endings made for the first Twisted Metal. This is the complete package for Twisted Metal Head-On, and it needs to be put on PS5. Don't cheap us out on the original, please.
The pineapple!
Ratchet Clank Series. The Lombax and Warbot are in a similar situation as our favorite ring-tailed thief. Yes, you can play the 4 PS2 Ratchet & Clank games on PlayStation 5, but there are two problems with this one. One, it's only playable through streaming, and we're not doing that. And two, it's the PS3 versions, which were infamous for being incredibly buggy and not properly rendering certain portions of the game. We need a straight port of these games, Sony. You haven't worked out the kinks of your streaming service, and that isn't going to fly for those wanting to play your action platformer games. Plus, the HD PS3 versions have long been criticized by the fanbase. Do our Lombax and Warbot right. Let us download these things. Bloody Roar 4. With Konami coming back to gaming as a licensor for its classic IP like Castlevania and Silent Hill, it's time we start digging in and finding what other classic games have been dormant that they own. Bloody Roar has been in quiet demand for several years now, and the last time anyone got to enjoy the franchise was Bloody Roar 4. This entry was only ever released on PlayStation 2, and while the series was developed and published by Hudson Soft, the IP is under Konami's ownership on account of their acquisition and merger of Hudson back in 2012. Unfortunately, it is not common for fighting games to get remakes, let alone remasters. But if we aren't ever going to get a new Bloody Roar, can we at least get the fourth game brought forward to PS5? Come on, that was the best one. Ape Escape 3. So here's the funny thing about Ape Escape. We can play the first game on PS5 right now with no problems. Ape Escape 2 is playable through backwards compatibility, but it runs like garbage. So Ape Escape 3 has already been rated by the ESRB for PS4 and has had no release since it was rated back in 2020. So what gives, Sony? We have the first two games and even Ape Academy 2, which seemed to launch everywhere else but North America back in the day. So where's Ape Escape 3? In Sony's defense, its absence could be due to the minigame that parodies Metal Gear Solid. In other words, there is a chance that Konami has a say in whether Ape Escape 3 ever gets a re-release, let alone a port, remaster, or remake. The Getaway.
Don't make me shoot you, man. I'll do it.
Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Put it down!
Ah, The Getaway. There is so much to love here between the gunplay, story, open world level design that almost rivals GTA 3. Unfortunately, there was so much going against this game, mainly because it was released around the same time as GTA Vice City. As a result, sales were remarkably low at launch. Luckily, the sales would exceed 1 million copies by July 2006, just 4 years after launch. People clearly found the game over time and really enjoyed it. So what if this little gem of PlayStation's first-party history was suddenly thrown up on PS5? Well, we have a feeling true PlayStation fans would be flooding the stores the day it's out. We just hope it does come out. Eventually.
Shutting down the area.
Champions of Norrath, Realms of EverQuest. Of all the games we've gone over in this list, Champions of Norrath is the easiest and biggest money printer here. Say what you will about EverQuest and its current popularity or lack thereof, this was one of the biggest and coolest action RPGs to play on PS2, thanks to its deep character customization, combat mechanics, and immersive world. Thanks to the likes of Final Fantasy XVI, Baldur's Gate 3, Skyrim, and a ton of other RPGs are more popular than they ever were when Champions of Norrath launched. Sony owns EverQuest 2. If they can get the right person to advocate for this game in front of the masses, who knows? Call it hype, but we could see a Champions of Norrath 2, or maybe a whole rebrand of EverQuest under that title. Only one way to find out.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.